from Butler.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be a part of this debate in the floor of the House in government's time, the first time ever. I want to thank the Shadow Minister for her excellent contribution. It's a pleasure to co-chair the Women in Parliament APPG, and talking about footballers, Raheem Sterling is from Brent, a proud Brent boy, and so is Rachel Yankee, and they do amazing things in the community. I want to thank the Government Minister for her moving and excellent speech. I'm sure the Nigerians would disagree in regards to jollof rice. I will try not to get too involved in that. But for being the first woman of Ghanaian descent at the dispatch box, I remember in 2009 when I stood at that dispatch box, and I was the first black woman to ever stand at that dispatch box as a government minister. It was so moving. I felt sort of almost the weight of history on my shoulders. So congratulations to you. And also for the Windrush announcement. That is a phenomenal announcement, and there will be a lot of people today that will be very grateful for that announcement. And I'd like to thank Wendy Williams, Jacqueline McKenzie, Martin Ford, Patrick Vernon for all the work that they've done around Windrush. Reclaiming the narrative for this Black History Month is important, because it's not about explaining Black history, it's about reclaiming some of the narrative that is out there and changing some of the assumptions. And I always remember at school when the teacher said to me, don't assume, because when you assume you make an ass out of you and me. And I always remember that. And when I met Pam, whose family owned a cotton farm in Mississippi for over 100 years. I was expecting, all of these stories of uprising and everything, and she just told me how the entrepreneurship, the sustainability, the fair pay, and I was so enthralled by her story, mytunica.com. I was so enthralled by her story that I purchased this shirt that I am wearing today. And I want to thank my honourable friend from Luton North for helping me iron it today. The thing about business is it's easy, if you like, to make huge profits in business if you don't have to pay people, if you don't have to provide accommodation, if you don't have to treat them fairly, if you can treat them like they are nobody. And nobody with a conscience or compassion would say that that is a good business model. But 6 years ago, in 2018, I received a message, so did everybody else in the country, and this message said to inform me that we had finished paying reparations owed, and the message said the amount of money borrowed for the Slavery Abolition Act was so large that it wasn't paid off until 2015, which means that living British citizens helped pay to end the slave trade. I was absolutely shocked when I received that message, and I thought, I don't consent to my taxpayers' money paying slave owners compensation. I mean, it was the British government paid £20 million, which was 5% of GDP at the time, which will now be equivalent of about £100 billion. And this money was paid to compensate slave owners for lost capital associated with freeing slaves. 40% of the UK's budget. So there has been a precedent, Madam Deputy Speaker, in paying reparations for slavery. It's just been paid to the wrong people.
On that point, will my friend give way?
Absolutely.
Can I congratulate my friend? And the shirt is lovely. I have to say, but just on the point of reparations, she's making an absolutely vital point in that. Would she agree with me that whilst we absolutely look to the future, it's so important that we do open and have that discussion about reparations, because like her or myself, we are descendants of those that were enslaved.
I thank my right honourable friend for intervention. Absolutely. And I understand that the Prime Minister has said that we have to look to the future, and he's dealing with 14 years of corruption and mismanagement by the Conservative government, but we do have to consider reparations because it's the right thing to do. Because it makes you wonder, you know, would it ever be conceivable that this decision would be made today? Like, would we pay traffickers for the loss of trade? Would we pay pimps for their loss of trade? I mean, it's a ridiculous assertion, Madam Deputy Speaker. So I thought to myself, who made this decision and how was it made? But obviously it was made in Parliament. Back then there were no women, there were no black people, there were no people of colour. It was just white men. And they made that decision. And to think that, you know, it was just 9 years ago, so it's still very current. 9 years ago, we just finished paying. So, and why this British government hasn't disclosed a complete list of recipient individuals and firms of bonds related to compensation for the slaves, researchers at University College of London have compiled a list of over 46,000 current individuals and groups who have received government payouts related to the abolition of slavery. Many powerful British families, including current businesses and political elites in the United Kingdom, are among the recipients uncovered by the UCLT. So when we hear the argument that to make your money, to make your millions, you just have to work hard, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, it's not quite the full story, is it? So that is why the narrative needs to be reset, and structures created in order to uphold white supremacist views need to be revisited and restructured.
My honourable friend give way.
Absolutely.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way and for the fantastic speech that she is making. As she will know, there are a number of different people who are calling for reparations, including people in this House. There is an all-party parliamentary group for African reparations, of which she is a member. And does she agree with me that there should be a discussion about the different ways in which people want to see reparations paid? People have heard the large sums of money and they've got quite scared, but they haven't thought about all of the different ways in which we could go about repairing the sheer imbalance of equality that we created as a country by taking part in the enslavement and trafficking and colonialisation of countries, like environmental reparations, educational reparations, all of these different ways in which we could support those that we so seriously disadvantage. And does she agree with me that everybody should come along to the all-party parliamentary group's conference this Sunday on the 27th of October if they would like to hear more?
Absolute excellent plug for the conference on Sunday, and I will be there. The thing about resetting the narrative is that we have to learn. And, you know, we have to educate ourselves. There's nothing wrong in that. And there's also nothing wrong in changing your mind. There's nothing wrong in having one position and then you learn something new, you understand, like reparations isn't just about money, and then you change your mind. So I agree with my right honourable friend. I mean, at the end of the day, slavery destroyed African economy. It stripped Africa of its people, but it also stripped Africa of its riches. There's a narrative that Africa is poor because of corruption and we must help these poor African children. Well, I'd like to change that narrative, and I'd like to say that Africa is rich. Africa is rich in natural resources, ranging from arable land, water, oil, natural gas, minerals, forests and wildlife. The continent holds a huge proportion of the world's natural resources, both renewable and non-renewable. Africa is home to some 30% of the world's mineral reserves, 8% of the world's natural gas, 12% of the world's natural oil reserves, 40% of the world's gold, and up to 90% of its chromium and platinum. The largest reserves of cobalt, diamonds, platinum, and uranium, and 10% of the planet's internal renewable fresh water source. So I want everybody in this House and outside of this House to consider the narrative that Africa is rich and it has had its wealth stolen. Africa also has a net contribution to the rest of the world. And as my right honourable friend has said, that there's lots of big, numbers going around, like $777 trillion needs to be paid in reparations, or most recently, Dr. Michael Banner, the Dean of Trinity College of Cambridge, claimed Britain owed £205 billion in reparation. Patrick Robinson, leading judge at International Court of Justice, declared UK should pay $24 trillion for its involvement in slavery. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of figures. But at the end of the day, some things will be easy to compensate. It's not just about money. We could give back artifacts. We can give back the bodies of freedom fighters, stolen jewels and precious metals wherever they may be, make good the land and seas ruined by oil spills, correct the education of history, compensate land for owners, cancel the debt. You know, there's lots of things that can be done to make sure we have reparations. And I would say that, yes, it is complex to calculate what is owed. But let's not forget that in order for slavery to continue, people put a number on people's lives. People were sold for money. So if it could be done then, it can be done now. And I want to sort of end on, I recently wrote a poem that I will come to, but the first Homo sapiens on Earth, so Homo sapiens, modern humans, is thought to have emerged in Africa around 300,000 years ago. And it's absolutely fascinating when you read about the different continents in Africa and the Middle Stone Age and how they developed different tools depending on where they came from. And the thing about this is it led me to write a poem about being of the first ones, which seemed to have upset, Madam Deputy Speaker, quite a few racists. And I would say to people, don't scroll on my social media feed unless you want to get upset. But my poem is this. So you wanted to see me broken, head bowed and tears in my eyes. More for you didn't realise my strength is powered by your lies. You are the wrong one, the violent one, the weird one, whereas I am the chosen one because I am of the first ones. You see this skin I'm in, this beautiful mahogany brown, this skin you don't like, I believe. So why try so hard to achieve by burning yourself by the sun? For me, there's no need because I am the chosen one, for I am of the first ones. I know I'm black and beautiful, an African freedom fighter. My skin is my protection because you, my friend, don't matter, because I am the chosen one, for I am of the first ones. So you wanted to see me broken, head bowed and tears in my eyes. More for you haven't realised my strength is despite your lies. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, no one should shy away from the truth, even if it hurts and it is painful. Slavery has always been wrong. That's why we've got the modern slavery bill that started in the other place. And we should ask ourselves that knowing the truth isn't the same as hate. This isn't hate speech, this is love speech. This is the way that we right the wrongs of the past and look forward to the future.
We now come